Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Hello, friends. This is Spencer Love, your host of Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network. Don't forget you can head to wincolumnsports.ca for all of your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, be it your major promotions or from the great province of Alberta, Canada.
If you like podcasts and you are listening to Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Manoia,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling
and other sports we like.
Wrestling,
but we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
Like wrestling?
I mean, we like hockey.
And wrestling.
And we like football.
And wrestling.
And we also like to drink beer.
While wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
It's when we hope to drop, but sometimes Mike Malowany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word, because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
but
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
Yeah. Let's face it, the two of us, we're real.
And spectacular.
And we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
We're also strugglicious.
That we are.
That was kind of the key. We're supposed to do strugglicious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no. You're stupid, because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah.
Later,
he said.
Later, bitches.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Backbreaker Media Honors, formerly known as the Edmonton SPN Awards, I think. Was that the last time we did that, Andre? That's what we called it?
Yeah, we were still Edmonton SPN at that point.
Yeah. We weren't
invited for that one. We didn't know you then.
Was I born yet?
Ouch. Ouch. Nicely played.
And on that note, we're here to highlight some of the best in wrestling here for the year 2018. As you guys can already hear, I'm Senior Engineer Mike Malowany here, a.k.a. The Ref, joined by stalwart of Backbreaker Media, Andre C.
Happy to be here.
And two newcomers, but been here all year and doing fantastic work in the Alberta wrestling scene here. The holder of the mic today, Spencer Love from Win Column Sports.
That's me. Mike, thanks for having me. Always appreciate it. It's just nice to be here.
And the other person laughing at Spencer right now would be KJ Kash, who can't breathe right now.
I can't breathe. Hey, it's nice to be here.
All right, so...
See, everybody says it. Why is it so funny when I say it? I think all three of us are happy to be here. Mike, I don't know about you. By the end of these, you're never happy to be here.
Just the way you're saying it, dude.
This is
happy to be here.
This is going to be very interesting, folks.
I spent 4 hours driving today. It has been a very long day. I am just relaxed and happy to be among friends discussing the best in the wrestling world.
Heck yeah.
All right, so this is part one of our two-part finale here. At the end of part 2, we got a very special announcement both Spencer and I have for you. You're not going to want to miss this, folks. But in part 1 here, we're going to be talking about WWE and
Mike and I aren't together, by the way.
There was no eloping over the holiday season.
I just wanted to clear up right now that you do not have to wait until the end of part 2. Mike and I are not together.
What?
You heard it here first.
What a letdown! I'm heartbroken.
Oh my! All right, let's get this show on the road here, folks, because we're already almost getting derailed. We're going to go through some of our favorite categories here and just bring up some of the highlights. There's not going to be any official winners here because, let's face it, it's 2018. Everybody's a winner.
As long as you show up, you've won.
Pretty much.
They're all winners to me.
All right, well, let's go through them right from top. We got a whole list here, top to bottom. Let's just start up right now with Best Male Wrestler. Now, if you guys remember through Backbreaker Media here, I don't usually give too many opinions about this, and I might throw a few shots in here once in a while and a couple points I got. But other than that, you know what, Spencer, who's your favorite male wrestler of the year here?
As far as independent goes, or as far as...
We're on the majors.
We're on the majors. Beautiful. That was never made clear. Literally not once. When you listen to this back, you're going to say, oh, shit, I never cleared up whether this was the majors or the minors.
And when he does see that I said majors on this one...
oh, that's fine.
He's going to owe me something. Anyway,
Anyway,
continue, sir.
Best male wrestler, there's a lot of contenders this year. Like 2018, just to sort of sum up my overall view, man, what a fantastic year for wrestling. There's really no other way to put it. I think that both in the majors, whether however you want to define them, whether that's strictly WWE as it is, the biggest promotion in the world, whether that's WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, how we've chosen to define it. There's truly been a ton of great wrestling this year, so it was really tough for me to make my pick for best male wrestler, but it was really, really hard for me to go any other route than the new, and I guess the former yes man, Daniel Bryan. I think that he came back with so much hype. Obviously, it was Daniel Bryan. That's got to be one of the greatest wrestling returns, regardless of promotion, anywhere of all time. No one expected this guy to be back wrestling ever again, and it was so great to see him back. I thoroughly enjoyed his WrestleMania comeback with Shane McMahon, KO, and Sami Zayn. Honestly, even far more than I thought I would, considering I'm not a huge fan of Shane McMahon wrestling anymore. But it was fantastic. He had an absolutely fantastic year. I still remember the SmackDown after Mania, his inaugural match with AJ Styles. And he's quietly just built a solid repertoire of great matches on both SmackDown and pay-per-view. The guy dragged Big Cass, Big C, to the best two matches of his career.
Big Kaz.
Oh, excuse me, Big Kaz. To the best
Z's.
two matches of his career before his unceremonious departure. Since his heel turn, I would put that guy on a level with Becky Lynch, as just far as maybe he doesn't have the hype behind him, and he probably, just to qualify, doesn't deserve to have the same hype behind him that Becky Lynch does right now. She's just the best in the game. But since he's sort of gone to the dark side, so to speak, I think he's been putting out equally great work, if not better work, both in-ring and character. So my pick for 2018 is the new Daniel Bryan.
All right, KJ, your thoughts.
All right. For male wrestler, okay, so I had to actually pick Mr. Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano. I don't think he's had a match that's been under 4.75 stars, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's Meltzer, it's Japan.
Yeah, but still, look
it's
at all the
not
matches
Japan.
the guys had this year. For pure wrestling, I'd choose Mr. Johnny Gargano. Loved his matches this year, and he kept me interested in the NXT title scene, even if he wasn't champ. So I loved it. Loved it. Oh, and I also had to put Seth Rollins up there for obvious reasons, but Gargano was number one for me.
Now, Andre, I know throughout this podcast you're going to be going a little off outside of the WWE for a lot of your choices. Did you go on this one?
Yes, very much so.
You're so hip, Andre.
Well, no. I'm not as big of a WWE fan anymore. I watch mostly New Japan and ROH is majority of the content. The only WWE I watch is when I watch pay-per-views with you guys at the bar.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
I was just fishing for a compliment somewhere in there, and I got it. I
love
appreciate
you, Spencer.
it.
I love you.
Aw, and I'm fond of you too.
But the majority of my watching is New Japan and ROH. So that's going to and my favorite wrestler here is Kenny Omega. He's had, to me, one of the best years in his career. Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom, reforming the Golden Lovers with Kota Ibushi, having that great match of Strong Style Evolved against the Bucks with Kota, and winning the title in a 2 out of 3 falls match, having a great G1 climax, and having great matches with Ishii this year. And I think he's easily my pick. But I do got to give a shout out to Okada, who has had a really good year this year despite losing the belt.
I was just going to ask, do you think that the both of them have sort of regressed since Omega won the championship? Because to me, I think that they both started out the year incredibly hot, and since the championship changed at Dominion, I think both of them have fallen off a bit. I think Okada has been a bit by design. I mean, he's supposed to be a little.
You're supposed to move
he's
him
not
down.
the Rainmaker anymore, right? But
To me, Kenny's still been the number one guy there, and I've thought he's done really, really well this year. I think he's elevated himself since winning the title. Like, look at the G1 he had. He looked really great at the G1.
Yeah, that's fair. Producer Mike.
What's your pick, buddy?
Well, I'll throw some ideas out there to add on here. And this might surprise you here. Why don't we go to Impact Wrestling and the recreation of Sami Callihan? He was voted as the Impact Wrestler of the Year in their popular vote, which I could see. And he's redefined his career and brought that company up quite a bit. Personally, in terms of a lot of work rate as well, you can look at their X Division champion in Brian Cage as well.
No longer the X Division champion.
Former, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's just the fact that Sami Callihan isn't my personal cup of tea.
Oh, anybody that knows me on the network here knows I hate hardcore wrestling. So.
Yeah,
it's also, to me, he's been a shining star in a pit full of mud, and I don't know. It just.
I don't even think that's true. I don't think you can say that Impact's been a pit of mud. I think that
We'll
Impact is.
We'll get to that later on.
It is a huge victim. I'm just finishing the thought. It is a huge victim of circumstance and the fact that
very much so.
Anthem is. Again, I don't know all the politics behind it, so I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But like, man, you move a promotion that had its best pay-per-view or event in years in Slammiversary, and then you move it to a Friday night 10 p.m. slot within months. It's not being built for success because I've long said, like, Impact is the best it's been in years. So, sorry, Mike, just to go back to
All
it.
right, well, we'll get to that topic here a little later on here. And I got a specific... that's a spoiler for later on here. But let's move on to our next category here, Best Female Wrestler. All right, well, KJ... we'll let you go first here. Your pick for Best Female Wrestler this year.
All right. Okay, so besides the obvious, like, Becky's killed it since SummerSlam, but in regards to bell to bell, like January to December now, full year, Tessa Blanchard. Andre and I agree, but Tessa Blanchard for sure. I mean, just, like, look at some of the matches she's had and the fact that she came to Impact and now she's been killing it on the Impact scene as women's champ. I really don't see there's any other woman from January to December 2018 that has killed it every single month, every single show. Tessa Blanchard.
I agree with that 100%. Like, I wasn't even thinking about her until you brought up Impact, Mike. That Impact was so far from my brain. If you watch what she's done, and you got to give a shout out to Taya, who's really become a good foil to her too. And no, Tessa's just been killing it all year. I do want to give a shout out to is it Miko Satomura, who's in the Mae Classic. I'd never really seen her before, and she came on and she put on some of the best matches in that tournament, like from first round to finals. I thought she was great. So like she honored her, but Tessa easy.
Spencer.
Okay, cool. I'll take this one.
Is there any other Spencer in the building?
No, I don't know.
There might be.
In the building, maybe.
Maybe upstairs.
See, the way I look at it is this: I'm a complete Tessa Blanchard mark. I absolutely love her. She had an absolutely fantastic year. If it wasn't for Becky Lynch, she would have easily been a pick. The way that I've sort of approached this year is number one, Becky hasn't just been hot since SummerSlam. I think that everybody forgets that for the 2 months preceding SummerSlam, she didn't lose a match. That started with her sort of friendship, whatever they call it, the friend versus friend match with Charlotte Flair. I think right after. Not right after WrestleMania, but about a month after Mania. So they had their match. Becky Lynch didn't lose up until that point, so that was sort of the reasoning behind her saying she earned her way into the SummerSlam match. I think that Becky Lynch has done, basically to me, it's like a hockey player getting injured mid-season, but still coming back and being the best player in the league by a mile. It's like Connor McDavid in his rookie season. The guy played 48 games out of a possible 82 and was still the best hockey player in the league by a country mile. Now, he didn't win anything, and I still think that's a complete injustice, but that's a different podcast for a different day. I think Becky Lynch, the work that she's done since, let's even say May, is enough to make up for the fact that, yeah, maybe her January through April weren't the strongest. I think that she has been not just the best female in the world since then, I think she's been the best wrestler in the world since then.
I honestly... My bad. Sorry, technology. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And the only reason I put Tessa as my number one is because it's been like January to December and her consistency and the fact that people, like, every time they see her name on a show, they're like, oh shit, like that's going to be a good match. That's going to be this is going to be that. Becky's like killed it. And every single time that she's been on a show too, she's done the same thing. People, like, she's been a ratings grab. Yeah. Like, for sure. So, I mean, the fact is, like, that, I'm like, fuck, Becky's just so good. And you're right, Spencer. She's been, like, the main attraction for WWE. Like, number one, for sure.
She's the man. There's no other way to put it. Becky has had one of the hottest runs in wrestling that I've seen in years. Like, she should frankly be appearing on just the PWI 500 by this point, not even just outside of the top 10 of the PWI 100. Like, she's been, and, you know, I hate myself for doing this, she's been straight fire. She has been absolutely fantastic. I loved her prior to her sort of, I hesitate to even call it a turn at this point. I thought that she was fantastic prior to sort of her character shift. And now that she's sort of taken a previously completely lovable, again, hate the phrase, but white meat babyface into this just badass character, like, I said it earlier, and I said it probably right after she turned, and I'm not the first to say it by any means, but like, she is having a run like Stone Cold had in his run up to Mania 13. She's been absolutely incredible, and I think that not calling her the female wrestler of the year is a great disservice to the man Becky Lynch. And I love you, Tessa, and I say that as a man who loves Tessa Blanchard. Becky Lynch is still the pick.
And that's your opinion.
And that's the bottom line, because Spencer Love said so.
Now, while those are great picks, and I'm not going to argue with any of them, I've always believed that in order to have a great hero, you also need to have a great villain. And I think that the consistency of Charlotte Flair and the way that she's interacted with Becky Lynch, while may not be the A1, she definitely does have to get a mention for one of the top wrestlers of the year this year, mainly through her consistency and the way that she pulled out that match. Both ladies pulled out the match at Evolution between Becky and Charlotte. She's got to get a shout out in there too.
Completely agree. My reasoning I didn't pick Charlotte Flair on this one was, with Becky Lynch, her character shift was something I didn't know I needed, you know? With Charlotte, as fantastic as she is as a babyface, like, even with her character now that's not a full sort of heel character, like, she's better as a heel character, sort of a villainess. So you're completely right there, Mike, but I think that her run as a babyface up until SummerSlam, because she didn't really even turn into someone who got booed up until SummerSlam, and even then that was completely inadvertent. So I think that Charlotte Flair, you're completely right. She is an MVP of WWE this year, last year, the year before, and for years to come. She was Ricky Steamboat this year, for lack of a better way to put it.
She's on the ballot, but she may not take the ballot. That's
100%.
The way to put it.
Yeah, 100%.
And And that's basically where Backbreaker Media Honors comes from. We just want people that are going to be on that ballot. We don't need to pick a winner here. But I'm going to make you guys pick again here. Best tag team. Andre, you look like you got everything stored in the...
Now,
Mike.
Now, when I was making my list, I had 6 different tag teams on my list, trying to thinking about who I enjoyed the most. And I'm going with SoCal Uncensored.
SCU. Boy.
If you watch Being the Elite, if you've watched everything these guys have done on ROH TV,
I have.
and you saw them in All In too.
Oh, I did. No, just All In.
But not two. But these guys have been, to me, the most entertaining tag team this year. They put on amazing matches, and they've also just been generally entertaining. And I picked them. They number one. But I do have to give a shout out to the Undisputed Era for sure, because I've loved them all year.
Spencer?
Yeah, don't disagree at all. SCU is absolutely fantastic. I do have to give a quick shout out to, as I do every time anything from All In comes out, Sam, Kate, and Casey. What's up? I hope you listen this far in the podcast. Yeah, they've been absolutely fantastic this year. I actually was lucky enough to meet Christopher Daniels this year. He told me Edmonton was the worst town he's ever been in.
Cass said that too.
Man, they're rude. I would agree that they're up there. I think for me, the Golden Lovers were definitely in contention for me. Evil and Sonata were up there for me even. I think that they've really done a lot of great work this year.
Oh, and Roppongi 3K too. For a junior tag team,
yeah,
for junior tag team, they had an awesome
I think
year.
they're more your personal taste, but I think that they're great. They're primed for a big 2019. As the pundits would say. How can you not vote for the Usos, though? To be quite honest with you, I think that if you're going to look worldwide, not even this year, the Usos are one of the best tag teams of probably the last 20 years. I think they've been absolutely fantastic this year. I think starting the year as champions, they put on a ton of fantastic matches. I think that they've been on a run unlike any other tag team, even including the New Day, because to be quite honest with you, I've never been tired of the Usos. Where for me, I've needed time to get back into the New Day, and there's been periods where, like, to be quite honest with you, as entertaining as they are, like, you want them to break up and go in their separate directions, and, Big E's the guy they should push, but I think that the Usos, I have never been bored of a match. I have never not looked forward to a match that they've been in, and I think even the fact that WWE, or the Fed, as Andre will correct me here shortly, I think that the fact that they're the guys that are going into tag team matches and winning against Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles as recently as a month ago, like, that speaks very, very, I guess, poignantly to what I'm trying to say here. Like, they've been fantastic. They will continue to be fantastic. And they are your official Spencer Love pick for Tag Team of the Year 2019. KJ, your thoughts?
Did you say 2019?
No, 2018.
I
think he was going there, but he didn't get there.
He almost did.
Well, anywho, honestly, I put anything New Day versus Usos because every single time they've had a match, they've stole the show, and I've been entertained. And they've had like 1 million matches in the last year alone,
and
I'm entertained every single time. So I just can't go any further than that. Michael.
Can't argue with any of these picks here. I'm once again going to go back to Impact Wrestling for a couple people that should be on the ballot. A couple teams that are going to be facing off at Homecoming on January 6th in the team of LAX, the new LAX, Santana and Ortiz, taking on the Lucha Brothers in Pentagon and Phoenix.
Oh, yes.
Both of those teams, I'm sorry, what they did at Bound for Glory in that 6-man tag, and as well as the OGs versus the LAX match at Bound for Glory. My God, these two teams are the future of tag team wrestling, without a doubt. And I think they should definitely be on the ballot for best tag teams in 2018 for sure. Spencer, you got some thoughts?
Yes,
I always have some thoughts, Mike. Wow, I had like just 3 microphones thrown at me.
There's an echo waiting.
Don't disagree. I think the only reason I wouldn't have put Pentagon and Phoenix on my personal ballot, and feel free to disagree, anyone else, I think that the two just did such incredible solo work as well that, like, the way that I've always viewed those two is, what's the best way to put it? As a super group more than a tag team. You know what I mean? It's like when John Cena and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, like just to give it as grandiose a comparison, it's like when John Cena and Shawn Michaels come together and win the tag team championships. It's like, yeah, they're a tag team, but they're still not viewed as a tag team. To me, they're such incredible solo wrestlers that, like, if you bring up Pentagon and Phoenix to me, like, I'll still be thinking of the great solo matches they had this year. And that's not anything against their tag matches. Like you said, like, that 6-man tag at BFG was absolutely incredible. But they're solo guys for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just due to lack of exposure, because down in Mexico, those two work together all the time together.
Yeah.
Along with in promotions such as AAW and such. But I think I got a feeling this year, if one of them isn't picked up by the Fed or they aren't permanently broken up on different promotions, I think you're going to see a lot more of the Lucha Brothers together. So, but we've gone through the best wrestlers. Now let's get to the best matches. These are going to be difficult. Best match for the males. Andre, you got the heavy clipboard there.
I gotta I'm gonna give my honorable mentions first. To Gargano versus Almas from NXT in Philly.
Damn, you stole my match.
That's not even my favorite, and it's just such a good match. It's a match I can go back and rewatch a million times and never get bored of it. The Golden Lovers versus Young Bucks at Strong Style Evolved that went like almost 40 minutes, and I was never once bored. But for me, it's Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, 2 out of 3 falls at Dominion. It's a match I just sat there and just marveled at the entire time.
It got 7 stars, you know.
Yeah, whatever. But it's one of my favorite matches I've ever watched. And it's the crowning moment for Kenny finally getting his championship. And I don't know, it's the match that stood out to me most this year. The one that captured me the most.
That wasn't the one that Kenny won the championship at.
Yeah, the 2 out of 3 falls at Dominion.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I'm still thinking you're talking about the Bucks and Golden Lovers.
No. That was an honorable mention.
My bad, everybody. My bad. On that one, Mike.
Speaking of your pick, Spencer, let's
No,
go.
I'm going to let you take this one.
No.
You've closed
Yeah,
them
Mike.
all.
Yeah, you
Mike,
gotta
come on, Mike.
Come on, Mike.
Everybody
Do it,
wants
Mike.
to hear from producer Mike.
I'm
Do
coming
it.
up with different ideas that you guys don't have. That's why I'm going last.
give us this
Fine.
idea
Go
then.
nuts.
All great matches. There were a lot of great matches to choose from this year, so I just went with the one that I enjoyed the most. I'm going with the debut of the North American Championship in NXT. What a fantastic match. I think, number one, Adam Cole winning. That was Chicago, I believe.
No,
wasn't it?
that
No,
was
New
at
Orleans.
New Orleans.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. What a fantastic match that was. I think that, number one, it's hard to get anyone looking that good in any 6-pack challenge or any match with 6 people involved anyways. I think it's...
Was it 5?
No, it was 6.
It was 6.
Adam Cole, Lars Sullivan, EC3, Ricochet, Killian Dane,
and
and
Velveteen,
yeah.
You're right. Sorry.
No worries. But it was just fantastic, and it's so rare that you have everyone in a match like that benefit, especially when there's a championship involved, because anytime someone wins a championship, it seems as though you forget about the other people in the match simply because of that one moment. I think that everybody coming out of that match looked fantastic. Like, Ricochet in his debut match looked great. EC3, even as a guy that I'm not personally a huge fan of, looked great in a debut match as well. Dane and Sullivan looked fantastic as sort of the resident hosses or whatever you want to call them in that match. And, like, Adam Cole, for me, like, he is going to be the breakout star of 2019, and I say that even despite the fact he's this popular already. Like, that guy's going to be huge next year. And I think when he comes out and says, I'm paraphrasing here, but that the Undisputed Era are going to run roughshod over NXT next year, like, I don't disagree. I think you're going to see all 4 of them hold championships next year.
If they're still there.
I think they still will be. I think that those are 4 guys that you can build the division around long term. Much like Samoa Joe was there for a while, much like Finn Balor was there for a while. You've got to have your staples because despite the fact that it is a feeder system for WWE by design, it is still a promotion in and of its own. Like if NXT was losing money or if it wasn't a great product, Vince would cancel it. We've evidenced that in the fact that we don't get pyro anymore. Every set looks the same. And I don't have a giant fist coming out of my screen every Tuesday on SmackDown.
I miss that fist.
And I think that's what I'm most upset about. But I think that NXT
Missing fisting. Wow.
Wow, grow up, Mike. This is
Come on, Mike. This is a grown-up podcast.
I don't get it. Can you please explain?
No.
Mike, please explain what you mean.
Nope.
Sorry, to go back to where I was, I think that all 6 of the guys in this match look fantastic coming out of it. I think that any of them winning could have been a great choice, which to me is always a great setup for a match when you really don't expect someone to win or really don't have a quote-unquote clear favorite. And in the long run, I think that Adam Cole winning that championship gave him a signature win, which he needed still at that point in NXT. It made the entire Undisputed Era look good by default, just by association with the championship. And everyone else coming out of it either had a clear direction or got a clear, bump up the food chain, for lack of a better way to put it. So, and above all else, hell, I enjoyed the match. And I think at the end of the day, that's what matters most, right?
Absolutely. Yep. KJ?
Oh, it was very long-winded.
Every time.
Honestly, I had a few Andrade matches from NXT on there, but one in general that I actually was thinking of and I really liked was actually the Men's Royal Rumble match from this last year. I actually really liked it. I loved the standoff kind of between like the new generation and the old. Well, I don't even think you can even call them old, but previous generation of stars, and like the ending of like obviously Shinsuke getting his moment, going to Mania, blah blah blah. Like I loved the entire thing. Finn Balor lasting an hour or something like that. He was the longest lasting guy in that match. Like the whole match in general, I haven't been that interested in a Royal Rumble match in years. Besides the women's, of course, but we'll get there. But I loved that match, so there you go.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the most entertaining Royal Rumble match we've seen since 2001, which is well known to be the best Royal Rumble ever.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Personally, a couple that I would like to bring up, we didn't specify whether this was going to be singles or tag team, so I'm going to bring up a tag team match, and KJ mentioned it earlier, the Usos versus the New Day at SummerSlam.
Well, I already mentioned that I picked a tag team match, so
Yeah, well,
or
The,
my honorable mention.
the biggest
You're
point,
so hip, Andre.
You know it.
God, Andre, why do you have to be so different?
the biggest thing I found about this, and KJ mentioned this right before we started to record, is
The
fact-
SummerSlam match?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
But
go
the
on.
fact that they got bumped to the pre-show all the time, and they kept stealing the show every time.
Every damn time.
And then the other match I want to get to was from the aforementioned NXT TakeOver Chicago. I do believe it was Chicago. It was the Adam Cole Ricochet match.
Brooklyn.
Oh, no, sorry, that was Brooklyn.
Brooklyn
Okay.
4, yeah.
But yeah,
Because I did a review on
Adam
on
Cole,
somebody else's
Ricochet. Oh my God, was that a match between those two?
Lion
Do you
Salt
expect
super
anything
kick, baby.
less, Michael?
No, that's the
there
thing.
you
Lion Salt into a super kick right there sells that match to me.
Pretty much. Just it should be 7 stars, except it's Meltzer, and you'll never give 7 stars out to anything outside of Japan. But that's a different story for another day.
It's rare you have a match that's got that much hype behind it as a first-time ever match or something, and it not only lives up to the hype, but exceeds expectations, and that was one of them this year.
Absolutely.
100%. Mike, what's the next category?
So we're going to go to Best Female Match for 2018.
Who wants to kick this one off?
I'll go first.
Just
I'll
grab
go
the mic and
first.
start
Just let
listing.
me go first. No, I had my 2 main standouts, honestly. So it was the Evolution Last Woman Standing, obvious reasons, and then the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. Holy shit. That was such a good match. I loved it. I loved both of them. So those are my 2 favorites in WWE this last year.
Andre.
I'm gonna go next. Mine is the TLC match, the women, the Becky, Charlotte, and Asuka. I love that match.
Mm-hmm.
Like watched it at Beercade, and I loved it. And they killed it, and they showed I don't know, they showed, and Asuka winning it. I don't know. I really enjoyed that, seeing her finally win a championship. But I want to give a shout out to the Mae Young Classic Finals. That was just at WWE Revolution, such a killer match. With Tony Storm going over and winning that, and I love that. Was probably my favorite match on that show.
Spencer.
Where did you say you watched Evolution, Andre?
Beercade.
That's Beercade YAG on 105th Street and White Avenue, where you can get all of your live previews from the Brothers of Discussion prior to every WWE pay-per-view on Win Column Sports.
And folks, if you get lost, it's actually on 106th Street.
Is it?
Oh, he lied.
Oh, man, I always stop
liar.
because I always stop at Chapters before I go there, and Chapters is on 105th.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, see, there we go.
Liar.
Let's call her even on this one, bud.
We're map directionally challenged. So. Anyway, your favorite,
are.
Spencer.
Don't disagree with any of the previously mentioned matches. I think that my favorite women's match this year was second round of the Mae Young Classic, Miko Satomura versus Mercedes Martinez.
Yes.
What an absolute clinic those two put on. And I think that both of those women, while they're widely respected in that, aren't as widely known by sort of an American or Canadian audience as either of them really should be. And I think that even if you were to just watch that match from the two of them, because even for myself, it was the second match of Miko Satomura's that I'd ever watched. Mercedes Martinez I sort of got into after last year's NYC. But, man, what just an absolute wrestling clinic from two... And I mean this is the biggest compliment I can possibly give, from two grizzled vets. Like, that was such a great match to watch. It was so unlike any other match in this year's Mae Young Classic. Not to take anything away from it, but it went so against what you're used to seeing in a traditional WWE match, or I guess the traditional quote-unquote formula that they seem to put their matches under. Those two basically went out and they wrestled a hell of a match, and that's it. That's all, and I am always happy to watch that match again.
I fucked up. I also I missed one match that I wanted to shout out, even though technically it's not really like whatever, but it has a woman in the match. I wanted to shout out Tessa Blanchard versus Brian Cage.
Oh, damn right.
At Wrestle Circus. That just popped into my brains.
I haven't
Holy
seen that.
shit. You need to
You
watch
need to
it.
see that.
I was
Get on it.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, it was. I think
It
their
happened,
last.
it happened
yeah.
twice, actually, and one of them is available on backbreakervod.pivotshare.com.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
even
I know
on.
what I'm doing when I
it's
go
even
home.
on the YouTube machine as well.
Is there an electrician for the cheap plug?
Plug.
Right here. He's sitting right here on the couch.
Plug. No, it was the main event of Wrestle Circus's last show.
Absolutely.
So far this year. No, thank you. Honestly, I was a little hesitant to watch it because Brian Cage is a big dude and Tessa Blanchard is like average size for a woman. But holy shit, they put on a clinic and I love it.
They knew how to tell a story there.
Yes,
and
there was 100% a story in that match, beginning to end.
Absolutely. Now, myself, I'm going to go with. I'm trying to do the math here. I think it's around 25 matches.
What did you just say?
For my bit, about 25 matches.
Oh, okay.
Take out the two matches involving Ember Moon's Jade character, Lacey Lane, and I will go pretty much with the entire tournament of the Mae Young Classic.
Mike, that's a show.
I like Lacey Lane.
Well, Andre, we all have our faults, so
I
it's
like
all
Lacey.
good.
I like Lacey Lane too, but she does remind me too
we're
much
right,
of Ember
you're wrong.
Moon. She's just too much of a twin.
Yeah,
But she's still cool.
Really good.
There were a couple hiccups in there where we had our Monster versus
David versus Goliath.
our David versus Goliath matches that didn't look too comfortable, but you can even look in that first round with Royal Matsumoto against Rachel Ellering in that first round. That was an absolutely spectacular match. But overall, that Mae Young Classic all the way through, compared to what happened last year with the Mae Young, this was heads and tails above what we saw last year.
Oh, yeah.
And now the other match I want to include, Spencer actually got a chance to see it live.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. I think
Where was that?
I think you flew down to Chicago for it.
What was he?
Oh,
What?
The Fatal 4-Way match at All In.
Yep, 100% up there. I think it was fantastic, man. Sorry,
very
you
great
take this
show.
one.
No,
It's
by
your
all
match.
means, you were
literally
there.
just
I'd
watched
rather
All
like-
In about a week ago, and I was sitting there watching the match. I'm like, damn, these girls killed it.
In pretty well every category here, I could have picked something from All In, to be quite honest with you. And I did. We're getting to them shortly here. But I number one, my reasoning behind not picking that one, first and foremost, admittedly, didn't want to have too much All In content on here. And number two, when I went into this, I wanted to limit as much as I could to. I don't want to be sitting here and listing, like you said, like 25 different matches. I wanted to pick.
Mike.
I wanted to pick Mercedes Martinez versus Miko Satomura, just purely for the fact that that was one of the best women's wrestling matches. That was one of the best wrestling matches that I've personally watched in years. So that is absolutely all the compliments I can give to the 4 women at All In. I will routinely sing the praises of those 4 women, but man, it was just such a cool match to watch.
Sign Britt Baker.
Yeah, sign Britt Baker, sign Madison Rayne, sign them all.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Signed to ROH.
Yeah, I'm
ROH.
well aware.
Hey, listen.
All right. Enough fighting.
Settle down, children.
Let's get to the next category here, and that's most improved for the year 2018. Andre, you look piped and ready to go.
Jay White.
Jay White.
He
Jay Caucasian, it's 2018.
Sorry, Jay Caucasian. Yes.
Close-minded.
So he had a good run in ROH in 2017 as part of the team with Search and Destroy with Motor Machine Guns and Jonathan Gresham. But then he came back to New Japan at the end of 2017 for Wrestle Kingdom, but with a completely different character than the one he'd been using in ROH, and he seemed very awkward in that Wrestle Kingdom match with Tanahashi. But over him, I think him winning the U.S. title from Kenny, then getting into his feud with Juice and David Finlay, he really learned to turn his character on. And then him having his feud with Okada starting over the leadership of Chaos, and then Gato turning to join Jay White has really turned his character, and he's really turned his character into one of the best bad guys that I really enjoy seeing on every show I watch him on. And now being the leader of the New Bullet Club, I think this guy has had one of the best turnarounds this year. Yeah, all excellent points. My pick, just before you ask me my pick, Mike. I've got a couple of them. This one was for me really, really close to call. I think that up there for me was Flip Gordon. I think that he was a guy who really, really made a statement for himself this year. Again, sort of based around All In and based around being the elite, but the whole book flip for All In campaign was absolutely fantastic. It really got him noticed, I guess, both in ROH and worldwide, because he was a guy I'd never really heard of prior to this year. I think that someone else who maybe most improved isn't the word to use, but someone else who really had a statement year for themselves is Ruby Riott. I think that coming out of... definitely. I would say definitely improved, because she's really built the Riott Squad and built herself into a great character this year.
And I think it was even you and I who were talking about it when you make the comparisons between
on
Absolution...
the pre-show for TSC,
but when you make the comparisons between Absolution and the Riott Squad, and I guess...
Because they seem to be the copy.
Yeah, and hindsight is 20/20, and obviously with Paige's injury, you're never really going to know what the long-term plan there was. But I think that Ruby's taken something that initially was seen as a second-rate absolute, or second-rate's not the way to put it. A second coming or a sister squad, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, to Absolution. She's really gone and not only elevated herself, but elevated two talents who, even when they came in, were admittedly green on their own ends. Like Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, the former, I guess, Crazy Mary Dobson. They were very, very good, but they were not traditional WWE in-ring wizards, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah. And I think that this entire faction has, since Ruby's match against Charlotte Flair at Fastlane, arguably been the MVPs or the quiet MVPs of both SmackDown and the Raw's women division. So Ruby Riott, third person I've got to pick, and I may even get a little bit of flack on this one, but how somebody can go from having their first match at WrestleMania to comfortably calling matches in the ring with Natalya, how Ronda Rousey cannot be on that list as KJ walks away.
As soon as you started to explain it, she looked like she got mad and just got up and walked away.
You know what? Ronda Rousey is a hell of an athlete. I think she obviously still has a long way to go. But again, we talk about hindsight being 20/20. I'm sure that there were still people sitting there 6 or 8 or 11 months after Kurt Angle's debut talking about, oh, he's weak on the mic. Oh, he doesn't sell convincingly. Or all this stupid stuff you hear about Ronda Rousey. And while I still would sit and say she's not the best female wrestler on the roster, I think that she is one of the biggest assets to the Raw Women's Division as of this point, regardless of her name value.
And depending on the year she has, she could easily be at most improved again next year.
100%.
Like, she's gotten better this year, but she could get even better depending on who they put her with and what she does next year.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to go to you on this one just because I know you'll go into your most improved after this. What are your overall thoughts on Rousey?
I was just getting there, and actually I'm going to be able to throw a cheap plug in here for
Great minds
Andre.
think alike, eh? Cheap plug.
They don't cost anything.
You need to get an electrician to sponsor this podcast.
I do.
I'm right here. I'm right here, dude.
Hey, Andre, you got $50 a week?
Andre,
I wish.
Andre, could you please feel free to plug the video game podcast you just did?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be coming out soon. I do remember the game. It's a video game look back podcast. We look at old retro video games, and I do it with my good friend Adam Blank, and he actually just came on my show, Total Nonstop Anarchy, and did an episode with me.
Cheap plug.
There you go.
Plugs, baby.
So
can we please, at this point...
The reason I asked for the reference, sorry, Spencer, I just want to
get
back on topic here. The reason I asked for that kind of plug right there is the fact that Ronda Rousey reminds me of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Party. It is a game that some people absolutely love, but you might have people that know each other, want to kill each other over the same topic.
An excellent way to put it.
And I honestly think Ronda Rousey is a very polarizing wrestler. That's the best way to put it. Her character needs work, of course, but she's brand new, so that's to be expected. Her work in the ring, there has been a few fatal flaws, including what she did this past Monday on Raw against Natty, where Natty ended up tapping after she released the arm bar. If you guys watched Monday Night Raw, not many people did because it was Christmas Eve, but I digress at that point.
I didn't.
But other than that,
thanks, Andre.
There's a lot of potential there, but at the same time, I got a feeling that this is a make or break year for Rousey.
Do you think? Sorry to interrupt. No, do you think she's at a point she can be broken? And not in like the Matt Hardy traditional sense, but like, do you think there's going to be a point? Because, you know, this is a whole different conversation, so I'll even keep this short myself. But like, at the very worst,
you're going to keep something short. You're keeping something short.
Ha 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 ha. At the very worst, to me, at this point, Ronda Rousey will become the next Roman Reigns.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. And if that's your very worst, being the person who draws the biggest reaction on the roster, you're doing just fine as a professional wrestler.
The problem I have with that is when you're a male talent, I hate to sound sexist, but I'm going to when I say this, but when you're a male talent and you draw the lack of reaction, opposite reaction that you get right now, Vince will find a way to use it. If you're a female and have that kind of reaction, he'll drop you from the roster. I gotta
Look at Becky Lynch. She got the exact opposite reaction that he wanted, and they roll with it.
Yes, but that reaction was created on her own. This reaction's being created by Vince and every way that she's being led during this time.
As much as I may upset people to hear this, Ronda Rousey will never, ever be let out of her contract with WWE.
Oh.
Ronda Rousey is an absolute star. Like, you look at it, I saw a graphic, and take this piece of information for what it's worth, but there was something along the lines of the top 10 Instagram followers in WWE, and Ronda's got double anybody in WWE. And you're talking people like John Cena or Triple H, or people who we think, as wrestling fans, are these casual mainstream stars, and Ronda Rousey comes in and has that immediate impact. WWE proverbially doubles their audience through having her, because do you think even having her
double their audience?
well, you know what,
doing their worst ratings ever.
That's why their worst ratings ever are still a top 10 TV show. And people
very much so.
we talk about TV ratings. They got handed $2 billion this year
a big
for
part
what
of
is
that,
perceived to be
All
their
right.
B show.
But a big part of that is Ronda Rousey.
Folks.
I think we should go to KJ now.
I think going to KJ right now would be a very smart option.
KJ, take your thoughts.
Well, I'm back. I finally decided to come back. Anyways, honestly, my most improved was the Miss Money in the Bank, Carmella.
I think so too. She
Yeah.
turned into a very credible wrestler this year.
Honestly, her winning the title in April and that cash in, like, I still get chills. Because, and not just because I'm biased, because the Iconics were out there first.
Yeah.
But, like, seriously, though, when the Iconics are backing back up the ramp and all of a sudden you hear Carmella's music hit and you're like, holy shit, it's actually happening. She cashes in, she wins. The audience reaction, ugh. And the fact is, like, she did carry that title for 4 or 5 months, until she dropped it in the summertime. SummerSlam. Yeah, so about 5 months or whatever. She carried it that long, but it didn't feel diminished. Like, the title, like, it didn't feel less than what it was. And I feel like she also had some of her best ever matches as she held that title. Like, her and Charlotte Flair wasn't horrible. Like, honestly, it wasn't.
Okay,
Mella is money.
And her on the mic, she had me dying every time. So funny.
I will fully agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
The only blemish on her record right now, I will bring up 3 simple words. Asuka, James Ellsworth.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I don't even. Yeah, why would you bring up?
Show,
why would you bring up James Ellsworth in my presence?
Should never his name
What's
should
wrong
never
with
be
you?
uttered on a best of show ever.
Agreed.
Yeah, get out of here.
Anyway, so I'll give you a couple ideas to think, and I'm thinking a little bit outside the box here on this one. We didn't say most improved wrestler.
I'm a little bit scared right now.
Yeah, it's Horace. We never said most improved wrestler. We just said most improved. 2 different things I'm going with here. First of all, the condition of the women's division at the beginning of the year versus where it's at right now, with the introduction of the Women's Royal Rumble, the potential for a main event of WrestleMania to be a women's match, the impact of TLC, the addition of Evolution, the state of the women's division has got to be one of the most improved things that has happened so far in wrestling today.
I think you could put 205 there as well.
Absolutely.
You think about where it was even just like 3 months ago. People weren't really taking it seriously, and then they've
Buddy
had some.
Murphy.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, like those matches Buddy Murphy's been having, and like Mustafa Ali being promoted. I don't even want to say promoted, but he's now like a regular talent on the main roster, not just he's a 205 member. No, he's like a SmackDown Live roster wrestler. He's not just on 205. So it's just like the credibility there. I think it's a lot better than it was in last year. Like people were like, seriously, like the 205 guys are on TV. Like, okay, let's go to the bathroom. Now it's like, no, holy shit, Buddy Murphy's going to defend his title. We got to watch what happens.
And now speaking of credibility, my other choice, I'm actually going to go with a promotion altogether. Thinking back to a year ago, we just had a promoter for this promotion show up in Calgary, pissed drunk, and get booted off a show and cause a whole bunch of controversy. And now this promotion here is on what I find, if they don't screw it up, which that could be a podcast on its own, could be on the way to becoming a very solid number 2 in terms of competition here.
I'm sorry, they'll never pass ROH.
Well, like I said, at least it can be in the conversation, and that's Impact Wrestling. The performance that they put on, both at their 2 pay-per-views, Bound for Glory and Slammiversary, showed that they are a legitimate contender now, and you could not say that a year ago.
Yeah, definitely not.
You were wondering if they were going to close their doors a year ago, frankly.
I was hoping at one point they were going to close their doors.
Absolutely.
Let certain people go other places.
But we've talked about, I talked about 2 shows there that showed some legitimacy, so let's go to our best pay-per-view.
Let's start with Spencer.
Let's start with Spencer, Andre. Lots of great events this year, to be honest with you. Even on the WWE end, not a ton of great events. A lot of the events that I would classify as great came from, I guess I say outside of WWE. NXT is my first thought. The best event of the year, however, still came from the biggest promotion in the world. I think that Evolution is your event of the year, to be quite honest with you. I think on every pay-per-view card or every event card from whether it be Ring of Honor or New Japan or Impact Wrestling, you can find something that you could sit and pick apart and say you didn't enjoy or left something to be desired. And I don't think that's the case with Evolution. I think that the biggest misstep, if you could say that there was one, would have been Nia Jax winning that Battle Royal. And even then, for me, that was only because I'd already seen the match between her and Ronda Rousey before. I think other than that, you got an absolutely fantastic card top to bottom. I think that every woman on that roster came out and delivered. And I think, to be quite honest with you, they showed up every male member of the roster with this pay-per-view because there wasn't a bad match on the card. There wasn't a match that something further didn't come out of, whether it be your winner of a Mae Young Classic, whether it be the debuts of Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir, whether it be Becky and Charlotte putting on one of the greatest women's matches ever, to be quite honest with you. I think it had a flavor for everybody, and that's not something you can say about any co-gendered pay-per-view. Nonetheless, an all-female pay-per-view. They delivered in spades. It was fantastic. Big shout-out for Wrestle Kingdom 12. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Still think it would finish in the proverbial Meltzer ratings. A quarter star behind Evolution for this guy.
Well, Andre, you know all about the Meltzer stars, so...
I don't like Meltzer. I just like a promotion. I just happen to love a promotion he's in
Andre,
love with.
You are so hip.
I'm not going to say it.
He's wearing suspenders. He's definitely hip.
I use these to hold my pants up, not because I want to wear them.
Anyway, back on topic here. Favorite people.
All in. Which, as we know, Spencer went to.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I did?
What are the Spencers in this room?
Come on.
But I've watched All In back probably 5 times, like all the way through this pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything on this thing. I wasn't disappointed by any match on this entire show. I don't know. It has some of my funnest moments. The penis druid, like, come on, Jericho attacking Omega after, like, being in the other Pentagon costume. I don't know. It just Cody winning the title. It's I don't know, just that special of a show to me. And yeah, and Stephen Amell being wrestling.
He's getting emotional. Do you see that? He's getting emotional.
I love this show.
Oh, so emotional.
KJ?
Well, Andre mentioned that he's watched like All In back so many times. That was Evolution for me. There's not been one pay-per-view that I've watched back more than maybe once or twice in my life with wrestling. But with Evolution, I watched it 4 times in 1 week because I loved it so much. And I'm not just saying that because I am a woman, but probably it has a lot of fact to do with that I am a female wrestler. But I loved that pay-per-view. And as Spencer said, like, there wasn't really a bad result on that card. Yeah, sure, Nia winning, probably, whatever, but we all know why she won. But that whole match takeaway from Nia winning was actually really damn good, that Battle Royal. And I'm saying that from somebody who hates Battle Royal type situations. I just don't like them. But I liked that whole pay-per-view.
Didn't you pick the Women's Royal Rumble match
Yeah, I did. Only when it's done well. Besides that, like 9 out of 10 times, battle royal type situations suck and they're boring. So when they're done right, they're so good.
There's a difference between a battle royal and a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Royal Rumble has anticipation.
And there's everybody's coming out at certain intervals.
Like, how long do I have on this one? Like, just
3
cut me
seconds.
off somewhere in here.
I'll wrap you up if I need to wrap you up.
Okay, thank you very much. Number one, no. The Royal Rumble is 100% a battle royal situation. In a battle royal, and Mike, feel free to step in and correct me. You are the referee here. In a battle royal situation, the member who has
I think
them
time's up.
thrown over or their full bodies thrown over the top rope in a simultaneous motion
yeah,
and have both
whatever.
their feet touch the floor at the same time.
Royal Rumble's its own thing. Come on.
The Royal Rumble is different because it has timed entrance rather than everybody entering and
do we
starting
really
at the
need to
same
have this
time.
conversation
Yes,
now?
we do.
Go-
Yes, we do.
Give me back my
All
mic.
right, cut it. All right, that's enough.
But yeah,
of that.
Evolution, honestly, and it was great. So, and then yeah, obviously now that we're talking about battle royals and Royal Rumbles, I liked Royal Rumble 2018, the whole show, beginning to end. I loved it. It was one of my favorite main roster pay-per-views that wasn't Evolution.
Myself personally, I can't argue with anything you guys have said.
Why would you?
I definitely want.
Especially the part about battle royals.
This is why you have to ref the boys in this room.
This is why I don't get involved in those situations. But anyway,
I mean, they're not wrong, but
the show I want to put on there is a card that made me enjoy every single match on it. And I'm not a big fan of hardcore, and there was some absolutely gory hardcore matches on it. Slammiversary from TNA, or from Impact, sorry.
what's TNA?
Yeah, exactly.
I review TNA.
A wrestling podcast on the Backbreaker Media Network.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like Andre's answer better.
The Impact Slammiversary here had every match had you enthralled from top to bottom as far as I was concerned.
Kind of. I don't think it's as good of a pay-per-view as people think.
No, you know what? It didn't blow anything out of the water, but the one thing we've seen with WWE, and to an extra point about Evolution, it looks so much. It was a great show. Don't get me wrong, but it looks that much better compared to the show that came on 5 days later.
Mike, seriously, why'd you have to bring that up?
This isn't a worst of show. You.
I didn't say the name. I didn't mention anybody was the best of the world. But anyway,
It's literally turning into the Voldemort of wrestling events. Like you simply can't say it, or someone around you is going to get upset or killed, or there's going to be some sort of giant purple crown in the sky will appear.
And they're going to do it again too. That's a thing.
They're going to do it 8 more times.
But to summarize what I was saying, while I don't consider it the top show of the year, it definitely can be in the conversation because it was a very solid card. Yeah. And I don't think we had that many solid cards this year outside of the ones we've already mentioned.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So from there, since we have Spencer and Andre going at it left, right, and center, we might as well get to this one. Best feud of the year.
Oh, man. There were definitely a couple. I'm going to take the lead on this one. And
besides me in the English language, but continue on, Spencer.
Mike the Ref joke. I think that... I think Okada Omega was fantastic, but I feel like... it is one of the first times that I feel like I've gotten a bit of a dissatisfying conclusion from a championship win being the end of a feud. I think that feud either should have continued longer between Okada or Omega, or it should have ended earlier, because while the match was great, the circumstances he won under were great. I feel like I still have something left to be desired, and whether or not that continues and Okada's sort of latest run ends with him regaining the IWGP Championship, maybe I revise my vote in a year. The feud of the year for me, I have a hard time giving it to something other than Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I think that there are so many layers to this feud. I think that they have done everything well in this feud. I don't think there's been a misstep so far. Whether or not you can call it a feud right now is something different. So maybe it is a best storyline or something along those lines. But I think that the feud and the story between those two, to be honest with you, man, like if you look at it entirely, they have been involved in some sort of storyline since they faced off in the second round of the Cruiserweight Classic, 2 years ago?
First round,
excuse me. Thank you. And I even remember then that people thought that Ciampa was going to turn on Gargano at the end of that match. So to finally see it happen, and to finally see it happen in such a satisfying manner, and then obviously you get the unfortunate injury to Tommaso Ciampa, and they somehow use that and build it into the feud and elevate the feud because of that. And then obviously everything involved that I'm even personally going to get into a little later on here. Everything that they have done in this feud or storyline or partnership, even if you want to include the DIY run as part of this, like, it's been incredible. It's been one of the best storylines in wrestling to me since the 2-year Undertaker-Michaels saga. I'd put it up there. I'd 100% put it up there.
Absolutely.
So, do I get to toss this off next?
By all means.
KJ, you're up.
Mine was pretty much exactly what Spencer just said, but I'm going to add on the extension of everything that Aleister Black went through. And his match when he returned and etc. I loved it. That's all I got to say. Mike.
Actually, I'm going to throw this over to Andre here.
I agree with you 100%, Gargano and Ciampa, but it's not my pick. But you guys, like, it was one of the most thrilling feuds of the year. That is, I give a shout out to that. I also give a shout out to Cody versus Omega. Those two, like, their struggle for their fight over who's going to be the number one guy, and then it finally coming to a conclusion. I really enjoyed those two, but I go with Okada versus Tanahashi. And so you had these two facing off. It started with him going for the title defense that would break Tanahashi's record of title defenses. It started there. Then you go to the G1 match, and then you go to Tanahashi defending the briefcase against Okada. These two in these three matches have had, arguably to me, my favorite. Like, they've wrestled each other for so long. There's so much history with those guys, and that you can continue it on and keep the fans wanting more from the same guys who've been wrestling each other for roughly 3-4 years in a row. 3-4 years now.
Absolutely, I can't doubt that. And my personal opinion, you'd have to go with Ciampa and Gargano. Obviously, that's one of the biggest ones. The one that, for me, comes off the board. It might be a little unconventional, but it got me really excited, and it's Becky Lynch versus the Internet. Becky Lynch versus ...
All of that, too, but I was going to say the Fed as well, Becky Lynch's Federation.
Well, if you think about it, there hasn't been a competitor that has had so many people come at her and she firing back at everyone since Kevin Owens, prior to him jumping in full-time on the main roster at WWE. Yeah. I think at one time you had Owens with 10 different people that he was in feuds with. And if you look at what Becky's done online, whether it be people inside the Fed, outside the Fed, and all around, you'd have to give it up to her. Like, she's been managed to hold her own and then some when it comes to that.
I got one more I was just thinking about.
Go ahead, Andre.
It's probably not the best this year, but it's one I've really enjoyed this year, and it's Tessa versus Taya. I've never, honestly, haven't given a crap about the women's division in TNA in a long, long time. Tessa's really built it up, and then having Taya being her foil, the other side of it, I've thought both have been doing very well at the promos. Their matches are really good. I just really enjoy this, and it's one of those few Impact things that I really liked at all this year, and I thought those two have done really, really well together in their feud.
Absolutely. Well, let's go on to our next category here, Angle of the Year. And we're not talking about just Kurt Angle here at this point, so yes.
Oh, that's true.
It's damn true.
true.
On that comment,
Thanks,
Spencer,
guys.
feel free to go first here.
Who attacked Aleister Black? How can you get? How can you go again, Andre? You may have different opinions just because you are more.
No, I agree.
You are more familiar with
I have
New
some honorable
Japan and that
mentions
than I am,
but
like,
I agree. This is the best one of the year.
they took. This is just another. I talk about NXT turning a negative into a positive with Tommaso Ciampa's injury. This is the best example for me of how great flexibility in wrestling can be. Like Becky Lynch, the one of my contenders I had for Moment of the Year. Spoiler alert, was brought entirely about because of an accident. So was this. And the fact that Aleister Black got injured at a house show because of an inadvertent low blow.
No, he crotched. He went to do a
Not
crotch,
inadvertent,
like
but you
he,
know
like
what I
he's
mean.
like a slip on the top rope and crotch, but he tore his groin when he.
Oh,
when
was he?
He was.
I've
He was
been-
supposed.
sorry
It was
then.
like he had his legs taken out and he crotched himself on
No,
the top rope. Yeah.
I watched a different video. My bad. Sorry, guys. But either way, he had a groin injury. I see that look on your face, Mike. Gross.
Please continue.
Mike and his groins.
Right? I think that they took something that arguably could have been one of the biggest negatives of the year. And obviously, you're never going to know what they had planned coming out of that triple threat match. But they took what arguably could have been one of the biggest moments of the year or one of the biggest matches of the year, and they turned it into just such a compelling storyline. They get the entirety of the NXT roster involved in it. This wasn't just a storyline that involved Johnny Gargano, Aleister Black, and Tommaso Ciampa. Like, this is something that Kash is involved in, and you've got Nikki Cross completely involved in sort of her final major storyline in NXT. Candice LeRae, like, where's she been? This is something that still we're seeing the repercussions from in WWE, in NXT. I'm sure we're going to see it on the main roster in the new year. Just the fallout from this one unfortunate injury 2 weeks before Brooklyn. So I think it's hands down. I'm honestly going to even assume I speak for everyone here in saying that this year's angle of the year was who attacked Aleister Black.
KJ.
Yes, that was my only angle I wrote down for my favorite angle. It says you're still no, but and that's the thing. Like the one thing I really, really loved about it is that it had so many different like variabilities. Like it had people guessing for months, and it was bringing people into this angle that you wouldn't expect. Like Nikki Cross, like she was hilarious in this angle. Like, oh, I know what you did. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, and like having just different people being played into this angle, and I just liked all the dimensions it had. I loved it.
This was far better than my winner in 2017, who is Kurt Angle's son. Angle.
Ugh.
So
Why'd you have to? Why?
Andre, can you throw some light on?
Like I agree with this Aleister Black and then Gargano and Gargano being it really made me happy to reveal it as Gargano, and just everything that happened in it so good. And it easily is, but I have another one which I really did enjoy this year, and it's Gato turning on Okada to join Jay White. Like, they have been together for years. I don't think anybody saw Gato turning on Okada, because like that was his boy, his golden boy for so long, and seeing him turn and join Jay White and help evolve Jay White into what he is now. That is definitely, but it's still who hit Aleister Black.
well, and even just to like throw back the curtain a bit, but like the fact that Gato's the guy who does all the booking for New Japan and is now aligned with Switchblade Jay White, like speaks very, very highly of how they think of him over there, right?
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Michael.
While I will not doubt the Aleister Black, the way the storyline is developed in NXT has to be the top pick if you had to rank them. The other one I'm going to throw out there, and this has been a low-lying one that's been developing pretty much, I would have to say, since 2016. It's that Becky-Charlotte feud. And it's been simmering and simmering over the first part of the year. And at SummerSlam, it just exploded to another level. And the best part about a feud is when it can slowly develop. And this angle that, whether it be jealousy, whether it be enviness, no pun intended here.
Why would there be a pun intended?
Just no reason. Anyway, continue. This feud between these two, this angle that's been playing up, and just the way that Becky's taken it to another level, it has to be mentioned as part of one of the best angles of the year, without a doubt.
Yep.
So from angle of the year, we go to moment of the year. So as I see everybody focusing on trying to hockey and communicating on other stuff, you know what? For the heck of it,
I need to make an update to somebody.
You know you're Canadian when.
I'll throw one out first. And actually, you know what? KJ probably has it already, so I'll let her
Well, it's
take
probably the same as mine. Well,
Go ahead.
maybe. I was just going to say the women's SmackDown invasion.
Absolutely.
I loved it. What more do I have to say besides Becky standing at the top of the freaking stairs going, I'm the man, or whatever? You know, like, you can't go wrong. The whole thing, beginning to end, obviously leading with the unfortunate incident of being punched in the face, breaking the face, but...
Face breaker.
Face breaker. But yeah, no, I loved that moment. What's the other moment? I guess just the whole moment of evolution. If that can be in a whole moment in its own, I liked that. But yeah, basically the SmackDown invasion was crazy.
That photo of Becky Lynch standing on those stairs with that bloody nose and the smile, that photo will last forever.
Oh, for sure.
Andre.
Cody Rhodes winning the NWA championship.
Heartwarming.
He finally he won the title his father held. Spencer looks pissed, but I don't know. Like, again, it's the pay-per-view I've probably watched more than any other. What are you guys looking at?
Oh.
Holy crap.
As
Nice.
we've been
But
topic here, but
again, I've talked about this is a pay-per-view I've watched multiple times this year, and I love this moment. It was an emotional moment. He had his dad's friends with him there. It's huge for this guy to win, and it's such a great moment. It just, for any wrestling fan, just to watch him finally get a world championship. Well, I know he's been ROH world champion, but to one of the oldest world championships there is.
Spencer.
All in its entirety, man. This is where I finally get to sing my praises for the thing. Is like, to me, and again, it is a bit of a bias, and it's the last time I'll mention that I was there.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I was there.
Really?
No, it was such an experience. Everything around it was so unique. Like, to me, I don't think you'll ever get an atmosphere like that again around a singular event. Whether it be the fact that Cody Rhodes took this literally through a Twitter spat with Dave Meltzer, and essentially like, I brought up Talk is Jericho today, Mike. Like, Cornette literally says it was literally a hold my beer moment. It's like, oh, you don't think we can sell out 10,000 seats, huh? Hold my beer. And it is so cool to me that not only Cody, but the Bucks, everybody involved with the production, the entire sort of IWC, for lack of a better way to classify it, got behind an event, got behind an event, got behind the people who were behind the event, and not only did we, I guess, get behind the people who got behind the event, but they got behind us. And they're the guys who went out of their way to book an entire Starrcade event that featured thousands of people that people would want to go and see, and just build an entire weekend, an entire community out of the internet wrestling community. Like, I flew in from Edmonton, Alberta. There are people flying in from Australia and people flying in from the UK, and that for one event put on by the son of a plumber. You know, I think, you talk about Cody Rhodes winning the NWA championship. It was incredible. People have their complaints about a 12-minute match featuring Rey Mysterio, the Young Bucks, Kota Ibushi. Like, that was incredible. The Women's Fatal 4-Way is your female match of the year. Like, even for me, watching MJF and Matt Cross open the main card as two guys I'd never heard of and thoroughly enjoyed. Like,
So disappointed in you not knowing who Matt Cross is.
I don't care. I think that it was such a cool experience in the way that, I think that you look at all of the great WrestleMania cards and that, and yeah, obviously you talk about WrestleMania X7 and it had great matches throughout it, but people don't talk about specific matches on it. People talk about the event, and to me, that's the way that All In will be remembered, is like literally a landmark in independent wrestling. So as far as a moment of the year, call it a pay-per-view of the year, call it whatever of the year, I think All In for me was the most important thing to happen in wrestling in 2018.
All right, I can't argue with that, and I can't argue with any of these moments so far. KJ,
Yeah,
you
you
got
can't
yours?
argue with an opinion.
True enough. Did we get yours, KJ?
Yeah, the invasion and evolution in general.
Fair enough.
Yeah, man, pay
sorry.
attention.
Yeah.
Sorry, Spencer's
Do I
been
just-
talking for a while. I
Well,
sort of
you just
forgot.
like you know the World Juniors are on when everybody zones out.
Because of Spencer.
Well, I'm gonna go one little further with evolution here and the moment of the year, and this is stepping away from being a diehard fan to more of a casual fan who doesn't search out the indies, who doesn't look all over, and it's the segment on Monday Night Raw when Stephanie McMahon actually announced the Evolution pay-per-view. With that,
With all the girls on the stage, right?
Yeah, with all the girls on the stage, the big announcement that there's going to be an all-women's pay-per-view. For the fact that the biggest promotion in the world is finally putting on an all-women's show just shows that the talent in women's wrestling has reached a level where they can be self-sufficient in their own show. And to me, you cannot understate the significance of that moment in wrestling history. When your biggest promotion with your biggest ability to promote through network TV gives you an opportunity like that, that has got to be one of the biggest moments of the year.
I think they exceeded all expectations too.
Yeah.
I think people thought it would be mediocre. It's going to be okay. It was good, like really good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of good, and I know that two of us in the room have experience in this, so we got a very good ability of critiquing this.
I wasn't good at it, though.
Well, actually, no, sorry. Three of us do have it. Sorry. One. It's the best
Excuse me?
announcer. So three of us have had color commentary experience, and one's about to because, I'm forcing him to help me out with some stuff. So
Sweet.
when we're talking about best announcer, we're talking about the guys on the desk. We're not talking about the guys in the ring necessarily doing the ring announcing.
Although JoJo kills it every time, man.
Well, we
Love
could
her.
bring it up. Andre's so disappointed.
I
Andre,
love her. I'm sorry. I love her.
Anybody else, KJ? You want to bring up
Well,
right now?
I think we already know who I'm going to say was my favorite. She broke some barriers this year, Miss Renee Young.
Now, that could be a moment of the year as well. on top
Yeah,
of
I
it,
mean, the
so-
first ever full-time, commentator on in WWE. Sorry,
WWE.
I don't know. It's probably
main
been
roster, yeah.
it's probably been done somewhere else. But I mean, for main roster, Renee Young, I got to put up there. She makes me happy every time I hear her voice on my television. So, boom, there it is.
Anything else? Nope. Spencer?
There's so very few excellent color commentators anymore, to be quite honest with you, and so very few actually great play-by-play announcers in wrestling. Don't want to specifically put anybody under Bosch Matthews, but, just to throw a name out there. I think that it's hard to argue with Mauro Ranallo being the best color commentator, play-by-play, voice of a promotion, for lack of a better way to put it. The excitement that guy has, and before I get into it, honorable mention goes to Corey Graves. That guy's a pros pro. He is very, very good to me at walking the line between being a heel commentator and being someone who just commentates on heels. Do you know what I mean? I would never call the guy a heel announcer. I would call him a heel sympathizer, for lack of a better way to put it. But to go back to Morrow, I think that there is nobody, absolutely nobody in the business who shows the passion that guy has. And it goes over to his stuff in MMA as well. He's not just a great wrestling voice, but the work that he does for NXT, he is such a huge, huge reason that feuds and matches. Like, you talk about Gargano-Almas, I still remember that guy's calls during the match. Everything that he does not only elevates a match, but he uses his position to elevate a feud. And more importantly to me, he shows a genuine excitement for the product. And I think that this isn't to shit on Michael Cole or anything of that sort, but I think he shows an excitement in a way Michael Cole doesn't show an excitement for it anymore, you know? He shows a genuine passion. It's almost as though Mauro Ranallo is not handed the finishes or not handed the results or anything like that for any of the matches he's about to watch throughout a night, you know? Where everything genuinely surprises him. And much like Ed Whalen did, he uses his position to elevate wrestling as a combat sport, not elevate wrestling as sports entertainment. And I think that is the most important role of a play-by-play broadcaster or a color commentator in wrestling, and I think he does it better than anybody else. Mauro Ranallo for 2018.
Well spoken.
Thank you.
Well spoken.
Andre.
I agree with Mauro Ranallo, but I have to go with the product I've watched most this year, and it's a team of Kevin Kelly, Rocky Romero, and Chris Charlton. Now, you may never heard of Chris Charlton, but he's the Japanese translator for one of the Japanese translators in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You got Rocky Romero, who's filled in for Don Callis. Like, Don Callis for a while there was the main color commentator for the English stuff, but yep. Rocky Romero's Don Callis is still going to be coming back for the big shows, but Rocky's doing a lot of the other shows. And then Kevin Kelly has become the voice of the English side of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And and when these three have been put together, and just all three on their own have been amazing color commentators this year, or color for Rocky, and then being a play-by-play for Kevin Kelly, who actually at the last The Fighting Spirit Evolved had to do color alongside JR doing play-by-play. That's why, like I say, Kevin Kelly is probably one of the best in the business right now. But those three, I really got to spotlight one. And then one more, and I'm going to MMA for this, John Anik for the UFC. I think he's really stepped into his role, taking over for Mike Goldberg in the last couple of years, and he's been such a good announcer for them.
Absolutely. A little off the board, but I don't mind that at all.
Big UFC fan.
Myself personally...
Then I'm picking Bob Cole.
That works.
Bob Cole.
If he can remember what... You know what? He probably could walk into a wrestling match and call a hockey game. No, knowing the way that
Mike, we'll leave it there. That's beautiful. Nicely played.
I really don't know who Bob Cole is.
Well...
The voice of Hockey Night in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Personally, my thought is, while I think Mauro Ranallo is one of the guys that I look up to when it comes to what I like to do when I'm doing my work personally. Personally, this year, I'm looking at Don Callis myself. When he works multiple promotions where he has to give multiple different... One thing I've learned being on the other side of the mic is you have to learn a personality of your product, and you have to reflect that when you're there. There is a different personality in your product from whether you're doing All In, some of the matches there, to going to an Impact Wrestling, to going to a New Japan. And I do believe he's worked a couple others as well.
Yeah, I think he put out a post that he's going to be working 4 or 5 different promotions in 2019 doing color.
And while you're there to provide analysis, you do have to have a different tinge of how you present it each time. And the ability for him to flex himself between the different promotions, to me, proves to me how good he was. And considering the fact that 18 months ago, he wasn't even in the wrestling business.
Very true.
Period.
And we got to look at this, because I've listened to him so much. I hear the difference in him, and when he's doing Impact, and then when he's doing New Japan. You see a shift. He doesn't change who he is, but he has a shift in how he calls it. Right? He's been he's really good.
All right, and from there. Speaking of comebacks, like Don Callis, let's go to the best comeback of the year. Spencer is dying to talk right
Oh, always. I haven't talked in like 7 minutes, guys. Don't call it a comeback. He's been here for years. Daniel Bryan is your 2018 comeback of the year. What can I say that I didn't say about him earlier? I think that there have been a lot of very cool returns. I think that Rey Mysterio not only coming back in the Royal Rumble, not only coming in the April event that we won't speak about, and not only making his full-time return to WWE, was very, very cool. I think that it was excellent that Daniel Bryan was able to come back and wrestle again in 2018, and that is a very blanket statement, but the fact that this guy was someone who I remember, as I'm sure all of you guys do, watching his retirement speech in February of 2016. I still remember how heartbroken I was over that because he was the first real... people compare him to Edge in the sense that he was a guy who was just taken away from wrestling too early, as I use my air quotes here, but Edge was a guy that I only really got invested in post his career. I wasn't a huge fan watching the Attitude Era religiously. I mean, I was watching it, but it was never, it wasn't on my TV every Monday night, Daniel Bryan was the first guy to me that I guess grew up with, grew to love, watched obviously his huge moment at Mania 30, watched him get degraded by injuries, and watched the guy have to retire. And even outside of wrestling in the sense that, yeah, we're lucky as shit to get an all-time great back in the ring, but personally, to have someone like that who had such an influence on my love of wrestling, who is obviously someone who never lost his love of wrestling, and yeah, obviously he's a guy who's putting on great work now. It's hard for me to pick anyone other than DB.
Andre?
Okay, my choice is kind of weird because he never actually left the business, but he's really resurged this year, and I call it a comeback. And it's PCO.
Yep.
Who's
absolutely
he? This is a guy who, yes, he was wrestling on some shows these last few years, but this year has really come back with this the French Frankenstein being the undead PCO. He went to Bola. Had an amazing run at Bola, WrestleMania weekend, and now getting signed to ROH, being part of the Villain Enterprises. Man, I love it. I think he's had just a great year and really reestablished himself. And I think he's 50, and he's doing crazy shit.
Absolutely, KJ.
Short and sweet.
Well, mine was DB as well, but I'm also going to say Dean Ambrose. I mean, when he returned, crazy. When he turned, crazy. I mean, I don't know. I just liked how he's taken his character. I know a lot of people haven't really liked the way it's turned out and how he should be the kind of heel he was back on the indies and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But, I haven't hated it. I've just really liked his character. He's added a little bit of a different twinge, I guess, to it. A tinge, whatever. I liked his return, mostly because it was very highly anticipated. Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. And for my picks, you can't go wrong with Daniel Bryan. It's obvious that for being somebody who couldn't wrestle to a person who is now WWE champion, that's the ultimate. For myself, one person that I feel weird about putting him on this palette because the way that things ended with him, and that's the return to the indies of Austin Aries. He went back to Impact Wrestling as well as other promotions around Europe and whatnot after a less than spectacular finish off to 205 Live. And he was walking around, I do believe it was 9 title belts at one time, that companies had that much faith in him. And he basically kept Impact Wrestling on his back for a good 6, 7, 8 months until Impact decided that, Johnny, insert your name here on the back end, was the brighter light to take him to another future than just shat on the company. But that that's a different story amongst itself here. But the fact that he could take himself from someone who was so far down in 205 to the point where he just wasn't happy, and then put himself in a position where enough companies had enough faith in him to give him all those belts. To me, it's got to be in the conversation. Might not be a winner once again, but definitely in the conversation.
Well, okay, the thing is, he had an incredible comeback to the Indies or whatever, and like the fact is, he went in. I think it was Destiny Wrestling in Ontario, and as Impact Wrestling champion, and faced off against the WWE UK champion Pete Dunne. And the fact that match happened, like being that one's for Impact and WWE doesn't usually like that, or guys associating with those guys. In Austin Aries, like just having that match happen, it proves this guy can pretty much get anything done when he goes back, when he's allowed to do everything he wants to as on his own.
Oh boy, Austin Aries, one of my favorite topics to not talk about.
Oh, I know.
There is so much to be said, and to be quite honest with you, there is so much for me that I don't know about this, that like my opinion will heavily change based on facts that do come out about this years and decades and whatever from now. Looking at it at first glance, there is no way that the finish to that match between him and Johnny Impact, or Johnny insert middle name here, there's no way that I don't lose respect for somebody as far as that finish goes. And right now that person is Austin Aries. I really have no other way to put it. The other thing I say, you look at the belt collector Austin Aries, you can look at it at the glass half full as enough companies trusted him, or you can look at it as enough companies didn't have enough people they thought were deserving of being a champion at the time that they thought, why not put it on someone with some name value? I think that Austin Aries, to me, a terrific wrestler, but you look at two guys who purportedly, again, don't claim to know anything, two guys who purportedly left WWE for the same reasons, that they were unhappy with their position in the company, who faced each other at WrestleMania on the pre-show, which, again, was a huge reason for their departure. Would you rather be sitting like Austin Aries right now, or would you rather be sitting like Pac? I think one guy, regardless of the fact that both left with some drama behind them, one's got some drama behind them now, and one looks like a child, for lack of a better way to put it. I think that Austin Aries undid a lot of the great work that he put on throughout 2018, because I don't disagree with you on that end, through what he did to Impact to leave.
Like I said, I think it was a good comeback. I just don't think it was a great finish.
No.
I think it's the best way to put it.
And I think, to me, if you look at it as a wrestling match, I think the biggest thing that can ruin a wrestling match for me is a shitty finish.
Absolutely.
So,
but speaking of things that finish well, we got our last category before we pick our opponents.
Oh my God, we made it.
Best show. Now this one is more the which promotion did we... We had a category originally in here of best promotion, but that would be all-encompassing for WWE. Best show right now can identify which show would be the best one from what you've seen so far from this year. Andre.
It's gonna just like most other topics. I'm going outside WWE. I'm going to YouTube and being the elite. Especially those 4 or 5 months leading up to All In, they built that pay-per-view on a YouTube show. Like, really, they built up a lot of storylines just through YouTube, and I really, really enjoyed that. And the fact that it's all edited by Matt Jackson, just edits it all himself, it's very impressive. And to have consistently coming, yes, they have little breaks here and there, but consistently coming out with new content. And even after All In, it's just been just as good, and it's really helped elevate SCU into being one of the best entertaining teams out there. I easily my best show, and I'm going to give a shout out to New Japan World, which is pretty much just shows everything New Japan.
Spencer.
I think the biggest thing that would keep me from picking Being the Elite as my favorite wrestling show is the absolute 100% lack of any wrestling.
It's my best show. Doesn't have to have wrestling. He just said best show.
My favorite show is The Wire, then.
There you go.
In wrestling, you jerk.
I think that it's hard not to pick NXT. I know I've sang it a ton, but I cannot remember any point this year where I could even think that NXT suffered a lapse or a bit of a downtime or a downturn in quality or anything along those lines. I think it has been the most consistent week in, week out show that I have enjoyed, to the point that, like, NXT is the only show, well, not anymore, but one of the only shows in WWE that has any sort of spoilers or any sort of stuff coming out around it, and it is still the show I am most excited to watch week in, week out, despite the fact I know for the most part what's going to happen because of the spoilers or because of the dirt sheets. You don't get that with SmackDown Live. You don't get that with Raw, and SmackDown's been great. Raw is another podcast for another day. And I just think that
Can we do that podcast, Mike?
I would love to. I think that Impact and I think that Ring of Honor and even New Japan, there have been enough moments where I've thought that there have been enough average shows for me that I can't hold a candle to NXT, to be quite honest with you.
Fair enough. KJ.
I was gonna say, besides Mae Young, like the Mae Young Classic this year, I loved it. I was also gonna say ROH. They've really sucked me in the last few months, and especially since they've introduced their women's division, I've really gotten into it, and they put on good matches every show, and that's all I really want to watch. I don't care a lot about the extra fluff. I just like watching really good wrestling, and that's conveniently on my TV a lot, so I'm going to pick ROH.
Fair enough. While all those are great picks, I'm going to go a little bit closer to what Andre did in his picking, and I'm going to go to the 10 Pounds of Gold series for the NWA.
Yes!
This series here did have some wrestling in it, so Spencer, be quiet.
You guys
had wrestling highlights in it, you jerk.
So hip.
When it comes to the 10 Pounds of Gold series, if you haven't seen it on YouTube, it's basically talking about the story of the NWA Heavyweight Championship, its trials, tribulations. A lot of the matches that it was defended in are a part of the 10 Pounds of Gold series. And to me, if you're looking to bring back credibility to a traveling title, this is the way you do it in 2018.
Yep. Wouldn't disagree with you there. And you're right. It's got wrestling in it, so it is a wrestling show.
Hey, Being the Elite has wrestlers on it, so it's a wrestling show.
Well, at the same point, you could sit and say that the Ric Flair 30 for 30 was the best wrestling show out there, because I wouldn't disagree on that. You could sit and talk about Matt Riddle. You could sit and talk about Matt Riddle's documentary
Guys,
at the PC.
I will sum this up perfectly, okay? Andre, under your direction, Santa with Muscles is a wrestling show.
Okay. That's actually a wrestling movie.
No.
God,
That's
is
all right.
We've never done this
Thank
together.
goodness. We have completed all the 2018 categories for this podcast. We have one more to go, and we're not going to make 2 hours here.
Okay. Then how long have we got?
For each one of us, I have asked you to come up with 3 things that you want to see in 2019. Andre, you go first.
New Japan, more shows in North America, and they're starting with it with their I can't remember what it's called, it's their tour in January, February, and hopefully more expand it throughout the country and into Canada, bring shows to Canada. So yeah, and number 2, All Elite Wrestling happening, getting a TV deal and existing. I want that so badly. And number 3, Finn Balor wins a major title, either WWE or Universal Championship.
Absolutely 3 great picks there. Spencer.
Short and sweet.
I'll be short and sweet. I tied on one of these, so I do technically have 4. The major ones I've got here, the definite top 2. I would love to see another all-women's pay-per-view. I think that we're going to get another Revolution. Along the same veins, All In 2. Whether it's double or nothing, I don't know if AEW in full will come in 2019. That seems to me like you're building an entire promotion. So maybe
I'm just saying I hope to have that promotion at least get off the ground this
Absolutely. So I think a good start for that would be All In too.
very much so.
The couple things I tied with here, I want to see a tandem of a face, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. In WWE, I think Sami said he's a couple months from returning at least. So let's even talk after WrestleMania. Would love to see those two as a face team. I also want to see my dream match of 2019, excuse me, Jordan Grace versus Tessa Blanchard.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
There we go. So there we go. They're short and sweet and fantastic.
Fantastic. So actually, one of mine is what Andre just said. I want Finn Balor to win a goddamn title and an individual title. I don't want him to get some fluffy like tag team thing with some random partner. I want him to be a champion on his own. Finally, because it's been God freaking how many years. Don't get me started. This is going to be short. And then I would also, since they just announced those women's tag titles, I just really want to see a nice build for them. And I don't want to see them fall flat as soon as they're introduced on the roster. Like, that's my worst fear in the entire world. So I just don't want to see that. And then also, I just want the Revival to win some gold. I want them to be taken seriously, and I want to see the Revival win some gold and keep it for a while. That's all I want, Santa. Michael?
It's not Santa, Michael.
There was a period in between both sentences.
Fair enough. Now, for me personally, I want to see some promotion develop a little bigger into being a credible number 2, because the quality that we've seen off of Raw and SmackDown needs a little competition to it right now. While I understand that due to money and the $1 billion deals that Vince has been getting, they're never going to have a number 1. They're never going to have competition for number 1, but they got to have somebody nipping at their heels and at least giving them some thought that, why are we millionaires when we could be billionaires?
Well, I think at that point, the best chance right now and of existing companies is ROH, being with, they've got money behind them. They have Sinclair Broadcasting Group who can get them on TV, get them where they need, and also the money that company has, they can put it into that company.
Absolutely. I don't care whether it's ROH, whether it's Impact, whether it's even New Japan moving into a mainstream production in the North American market. I just want somebody to go up to WWE and say, look, you're producing a crappy product, we're producing a better one, and people are starting to watch us instead. A little bit. Number 2, I'm going to play off a little bit of what KJ said. I want a decent build for those reincarnation of the women's tag titles.
But the WWE women's tag titles, not WWF.
Just like the current WWE Cruiserweight title is not the same as the old WWE Cruiserweight title.
Insert reference to the Jumping Bomb Angels here.
I'm glad you said it, not me. But I want that. I want that final at WrestleMania, and I want that final to be Bayley and Sasha versus the Iconics.
Fuck yeah!
No, the Iconics versus Chelsea Green and Britt Baker.
Can we do a triple threat?
Yeah, even better. Triple threat between those 3.
Triple threat.
I want those 2 teams in there minimum.
I'm going to call it right now. Here's my called shot for 2019. You are going to see the women's tag titles announced, and I guess they'll be first acquired via a tournament that will begin the night after the Royal Rumble. No, you know what? I'll stick to that because Fastlane's not enough. I think you see a tournament start after the Royal Rumble or the build to a tournament start after the Royal Rumble. You're going to see Sasha Bayley versus Trish and Lita as your final.
There you go.
Can I pose a quick question? When do Trish and Lita show up? Very beginning of the tournament?
There's a women's Royal Rumble coming up.
Nothing else needs to be said. Close it out there, Mike.
And my last one, I just want to see a better product out of WWE. Straight up. They say that they've seen what's going on with the fans. They need to realize how stale their product is getting and do something about it. They talk about these call-ups, but we have seen what happens to NXT call-ups when the booking is so horrible for them.
Okay,
Yep.
but you gotta say the six or 5, you count the 2 as a tag team. Out of 6 of them, 2 to me are viable stars or have any star power. The other 4 are in essence NXT mid-carders who, to me, don't get me wrong, I want Nikki Cross to do well, but they're going to come onto the roster and just be mid-carders. Like, Heavy Machinery will never win a WWE Tag Team title, at least for the next few years. And you got EC3 and Lars Sullivan, these are the only 2. You need to bring up people that make a difference.
Well,
Undisputed
Andre,
Era, Gargano, Black.
That's a topic that we can get into possibly on a future Over the Top Rope podcast.
Quite possibly, where I can
I'll be
flat
there.
out tell you that time, too, that Nikki Cross will be a women's champion within a year.
There you go.
I hope so.
But all I care about is I don't care how they do it, but they need to make a product that is worth watching again and being must-see TV on Mondays. Because right now it is PVR worthy at best.
I don't watch. I watch in highlight forms on YouTube.
Exactly. But anybody else got anything else they want to add to their wish list? Spencer?
I want to see more unicorn shirts from Spencer.
Thank you. Actually, I'm 1 for 1 today then. Thank you, Mom, for my Christmas present. Thoroughly appreciate the shirt. I already have some big fans, apparently. No, I think that a great product is all anyone can really wish for not only WWE, but for New Japan, for Ring of Honor, for Impact, for if AEW is to come around. I think that if we continue to build, but if wrestling continues to build on what was an absolutely excellent year, then I think you're going to get all of that. Because there's always going to be a pay-per-view like TLC, like we just had, where everyone's excited or there's a great potential card and it falls flat on its face. And there's always going to be stuff that has the potential to fall flat on its face and be the best pay-per-view of the year in Evolution. I think that as long as we continue to build along what they built on last year, it's only going to go up.
Absolutely. But that's going to wrap up part 1 of this podcast. It's hard to believe here we're actually through the first half. Since people might not listen to the Alberta Indie part, let's get our plugs in here now as well. KJ, where can people find you?
Okay, I guess I'm first. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kayla Jamies.
Andre.
On Twitter at That Canada Guy, on Instagram at That Canada Dude. Check out Backbreaker Media. I host a bunch of Quick Calls episodes, and I host every 2 weeks. I have a new episode of Total Nonstop Anarchy, which you can check out on the Backbreaker Media Network. And please check me out on the Remember the Game podcast, which I will be on very, very soon, as we recorded a couple episodes with my good friend Adam Blank at Adam Blank 16 or wait 17. Sorry, Adam Blank 17. Who's one of my favorite comedians in the world.
Shout out to Adam Blank 16 at this point. Spencer.
Yeah, honestly, there's somebody out there who just got a real nice cheap plug from us. Guys, you already know that Win Column Sports is the place to find all of your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, whether that be worldwide or from the great province here of Alberta, Canada. I am Spencer Love. I am one half of the Brothers of Discussion. I am your host of Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network, proudly from Alberta, Canada.
And don't forget, folks, we have a very special announcement coming up at the end of the next podcast. So
huge news.
Very huge.
Huge.
About as huge as Canada playing Denmark.
Yeah, it's just that big.
That big.
2 touchdown victory, huge, Mike.
But this is at Mike the Ref on most things, or Mike the Ref EDM on Instagram. I want to thank each and every one of you for checking out the Backbreaker Media Honors major promotions part 1 of our discussion here. And join us tomorrow where we have our part 2 covering the Alberta Indies here on the Backbreaker Media Network.